Back at it on a Wednesday afternoon. Brett Ciancia Pick Six previews coming up here in hour number 2. We've been talking about Clemson and Georgia. Again, 1 month away. 1 month away from the kickoff of one of the most highly anticipated matchups in a long time for Clemson in the regular season, especially given the fact that last year these two teams were playing in front of sparsely attended games. And the expectation, again, boy, I know you don't want to talk about COVID. I get it. I think we're all tired of talking about COVID, but the expectations are that this will be a packed house, that this season is going to be relatively normal. And then you look at the COVID map. Oh, my gracious. And it looks like, the color grid of passionate college football fan bases when you pull that thing up. So I'm just hopeful that everything goes well and that we don't have, any real hiccups for fans, especially where you don't get to attend ball games like you expect, because at this point that would be brutal. Like a year ago, coming into it, it was kind of like, well, we probably, we knew that you probably weren't going to be attending at least in full capacities. Like that was the thought process behind it. And then a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I think everybody kind of felt like we were turning a corner and we'd be good to go in the fall. And right now, you listen to health experts and doctors, and it doesn't sound like things are going very great at a lot of these hospitals, not just maybe in the state of South Carolina, but across the country. And you go, man, I just don't want to have to go back to where it was. That's for sure. But Clemson and Georgia expect it still to be at capacity up there in Charlotte. And, last week we talked with Gary Stokan from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl here on the program. And this would have been a great game, to take place over in, in the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, no doubt. But that venue had a couple of games already booked, and that'll be Alabama and Miami. And then, of course, the NC State, Mississippi State game, right? Isn't that the other one? Was it Louisville? Did I say Mississippi State? Is it Louisville, Ole Miss? Is that the other Peach Bowl Classic or whatever? We just talked about it last week, and now my brain's fried. Louisville and Ole Miss. Yeah, that's the other the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Okay, good. So anyway, but Clemson and Georgia getting to do this in Charlotte, I think is great. And if you look over the long haul for this series, I think if you're going to play home and homes, that's awesome. But then I don't mind if you do one in Charlotte and one in Atlanta and call it a day. Now, as for the Bulldogs, one of the other things that could impact this game, ironically, are two players we've talked about here on this program plenty. Number one being Derion Kendrick, the former Clemson Tiger cornerback, who is possibly, going to be a starter for the Georgia Bulldogs. Certainly could have an impact. He's only been in Athens for, 5 or 6 months, whatever it is now. But he was a kid projected to go to the NFL. He was a kid that was an all ACC type performer. And he has arguably as much knowledge about what Clemson is going to want to do offensively as maybe any kid not on Clemson's roster. And here you are in the opener where he will know undoubtedly the strengths and weaknesses of DJ Uiagalelei and the right ways to maybe attack and bait the young Clemson quarterback. In addition to that, Arik Gilbert. You remember Gilbert? He was at a 5-star coming out of high school, tight end prospect. I would have loved if had Arik Gilbert end up at Clemson. He went to Clemson for a couple of visits, ends up going to LSU, spends a year on the Bayou, decides he's going to transfer out, going to take that free transfer to be able to play at Florida, ends up kind of backing out on that deal. And I said before he even went to Florida, I said, look, I know Clemson doesn't dabble in the transfer portal. I know Clemson has not played the transfer fiddle as of yet. But here's a kid who I said, you're going to really hate it if he ends up with the Bulldogs. And lo and behold, after second guessing his move to Florida, thinking back about maybe even going to LSU, the desire to get closer to home or back to home, if you will, weighed heavily for Arik Gilbert. And now the young man out of Marietta, Georgia, 6'5", 250, 255-pound tight end, freakishly gifted, is going to get a shot to be the starter against Clemson and cause all kind of trouble. And, I don't know if Clemson had even pursued him heavily when he decided to get in the transfer portal, if they'd have really pushed to land him, if they'd have taken any chances. And I don't know if they did or didn't. That's the other thing. I never heard anything on that front. But I'll tell you, I think that from the standpoint of things that Georgia's got to like is his versatility to flank him out, his speed and strength, and his hands, his size. I mean, he is the prototypical 2021 college football tight end. He is built in the mold of Jordan Leggett. He is built in the mold of what you hope Braden Galloway becomes. He is a freakishly gifted young man, and he's a reason for you to have some concern. It'll be a great outlet valve. A great outlet for JT Daniels. And then, of course, there's also the unknowns that we really don't know about for either of these teams, just in terms of how it all plays out. But, you got punt return, kick return, special teams play, missed field goals. I mean, you feel good with BT Potter for Clemson for sure. But, again, you get into a situation where you got a punt, a turnover. I mean, that kind of stuff could clearly come into play for both of these teams. And I think that Georgia probably has more question marks right now on special teams than Clemson. I love Will Spires. He's improved so much. I think fans, they were like, oh, man, Spires every time he comes in. But I think he's really made tremendous strides and has become a real weapon for Clemson now in his 18th season. We hit a quick break. We'll come back with more. Stay with us.